Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So if you watched Kantara chapter 1 and were absolutely mesmerized by those powerful ritual scenes, you're not alone. The film has taken the box office by storm with a massive 90 crore opening day, but there's something even more important happening behind the scenes that we need to talk about. So today we're diving deep into the ancient tradition of Bhutakola that's at the heart of this film, why it's one of the most socially progressive traditions in India, and why the makers have issued an urgent appeal to fans. So this story is more incredible than you think. So let's get into it. So Kantara Chapter 1 hit theatres on October 2nd, perfectly timed for the Dussehra weekend, and it's been nothing short of a cultural phenomenon. Rishabh Shetty returns to bring us a prequel set during the Kadamba dynasty era, taking us centuries back into the spiritual and cultural roots of Tulunadu. But here's something fascinating. This isn't Rishabh Shetty's first time bringing Bhutakola to mainstream cinemas. The original Kantara, released in 2022, became the highest rated Indian film on IMDb with a rating of 9.3 out of 10. So that film introduced millions to this ancient rituals for the first time. So what makes these films special? It's the authentic depiction of Bhutakola rituals. These aren't just random dance sequences created for entertainment. These are real, sacred ceremonies that have been practiced for over 800 years in the coastal regions of Karnataka and Kerala. The devotional intensity that you see on screen, that's because Bhutakola isn't just an art. It's a living, breathing spiritual tradition that bridges the divine and the material world. So what exactly is Bhutakola? Bhutakola, meaning dance of the spirit, is an ancient ritual prevalent among Tulu-speaking communities in 3 districts of Karnataka. That is Udupi, Dakshina Kannada and Uttar Kannada, plus Kasaragod and Kerala. This region is collectively known as Tulunadu. Now, thousands of these performances happen every year from November to May. Research scholars have documented around 400 different bhutas or deities worshipped across the region. The dual worship system. So the people of Tulunadu follow a very unique tradition of dual worship. They worship Puranic gods in temples with Brahmin priests, where devotees are spectators, but they also worship local spirits, the bhutas, who are more intimate, personalized deities connected directly to families, villages, and regions. So who are these spirits? Originally, these were spirits of tribal ancestors and heroes who fought against discrimination, protected their land and people. So they fall into different categories. Spirits of totemic origin like Panjuli, the boar spirit, mother goddess like Kallurthi, attendants of Lord Shiva like Guliga, and spirits of cultural heroes like Koti and Chennaya. Now here's where things got twisted for centuries. In 1894, British scholar Arthur Coke Burnell wrote the first book of Bhutakola titled The Devil Worship of the Tuluas. There's just one massive problem. He completely misinterpreted Bhuta as devil. So this colonial misunderstanding led to Bhutakola being labeled as devil worship in the West and parts of India. This couldn't be further from the truth. These spirits aren't demons or devils. They are considered guardians and protectors of villages, livestock, and people. Many are believed to be attendants of Lord Shiva himself. So this reflects the religious bigotry of the colonial era, where indigenous spiritual practice that didn't fit into European Christian framework was dismissed as devil worship. The term devil has such a negative connotation that it's taken decades to correct this misconception, and these are sacred guardian spirits, not evil entities. And here's what makes Bhutakola truly revolutionary, especially in the context of Indian society. Bhutakola is one of the most caste-inclusive traditions you'll find anywhere in India. Let me explain why this is so significant. Dayanand G. Katalsar, a Bhutakola practitioner from Pambada caste, explains it beautifully. A vessel that is full cannot hold any more substances. Only an empty vessel can be filled. That is why the duty of performing Bhutakola was assigned to the poor and backward communities. Think about that for a moment. In a society historically divided by caste hierarchies, this tradition says that spiritual emptiness, humility, makes someone worthy and not their birth or social status. So everyone has a role, and what makes it remarkable is that every caste in Tulunadu has assigned responsibilities. The Parava, Pambada and Nalike communities, considered backward castes, are the actual performers. They are the medium between deity and worshippers, and they're considered the true custodians of the tradition. tradition. The Jains or Bants, traditionally landlords, oversee arrangements and finance the events. Other communities like Billavas, Devadigas, Mogaviras, and Koragas carry out essential duties. The Brahmin community entered later and introduced some Vedic elements like morning havans. So when a performer from a backward caste is possessed by the spirit, they transform into a deity. In that moment, they are worshipped by everyone, including upper caste, landlords, and Brahmins. A person who might face discrimination in daily life becomes an oracle, delivers divine judgments, and settles disputes. Their verdict is final and respected by all, regardless of caste hierarchy. So while many festivals and temples in India still bar people from certain castes, this 800-year-old tradition has always been inclusive. It's actually unimaginable without a marginalized community. Now let's talk about the ritual itself. What you saw powerfully depicted in Kantara. A Bhutakola is a night-long dance performance held at the Daivasthana, a sacred location dedicated to the deity. The date is decided by the villagers and the performance happens at specific time, usually at night. The impersonator or the medium undergoes nearly 2 hours of elaborate preparation. Ritual bath with oil for physical purification, makeup using plant extracts with different colors symbolizing the spirit's characteristics, red costumes, vibrant garments and silver ornaments, a large anklet called gaggara that creates rhythmic, thunderous sound, a grand towering headdress shaped like the deity, waist wrapped with coconut leaves. Every commodity used is derived from nature. The ritual remains primitive and nature-oriented despite some modern commercialization. The Paddana, the performance starts with practitioners singing Paddana, oral folklore that narrates the spirit's origin, adventures, struggles, death, and how it came to be worshipped across Tulunadu. So for centuries, these were the only way Bhutakola's history was preserved. The first historical evidence date back to 12th century inscriptions at Karkala's Shiva temple. The possession after the Paddana, the performer appears before the Gudi in full attire. So everyone prays and chants, urging the spirit to take hold. So then the practitioner begins to shiver and shake, entering a trance state, the moment of possession. So in this state, they address people according to their rank, listen to their problems and family conflicts, act as healers and judge, provide warnings, comfort and blessings, settle village disputes with final binding decisions, deliver divine justice on behalf of the deity. This isn't just performance art. This is believed to be the actual manifestation of the divine spirit coming to protect and guide the community. Now, both Kantara films have sparked important conversations and controversies. So, after the original Kantara's release in 2022, actor and activist Chetan made controversial remarks about the cultural practice of Bhutakola. Several complaints were filed against him in Karnataka. The second controversy centered around questions of cultural identity, specifically whether Bhutakola should be categorized as a part of Hindu culture or preserved as a distinct non-Vedic ritual according to Tulu Adivasi traditions. This debate highlights a larger tension in India about how indigenous and tribal traditions relate to mainstream religious identities. Some see Bhutakola as an ancient tribal practice that predates organized religion, so others view it through the lens of Hindu Shaivite traditions, noting the connection to Lord Shiva's attendance. What's clear is that Bhutakola has roots in animistic and tribal practices that date back centuries, with Vedic influences later introduced by the Brahmin community. So it's a mixture of beliefs, rituals, literature, music, and theatrical elements that defies simple categorization. The important thing, the people who practice it, the Tulua communities, have guarded these rituals for over 800 years, ensuring the core remains intact while allowing natural evolutions. And this brings us to why we are really making this video. After Kantara Chapter 1's release, social media has been flooded with videos of people imitating the Daiva characters and performing rituals. Fans have been dressing up in the theatres, mimicking the movements and recreating scenes from the film. So Hombale Films, the makers of Kantara Chapter 1, have issued a public statement appealing to audiences not to imitate, mimic and trivialize the Daiva personas. So why is this so important? Because these aren't just movie characters. They're sacred spiritual entities that that people have worshipped for over 800 years. The Bhuta Kola tradition is deeply embedded in religious and cultural fabric of Tulunadu. So when fans imitate these rituals as entertainment, it disrespects the spiritual beliefs of millions. It trivializes sacred practices that have meaning far beyond cinema. It reduces ancient traditions to social media trends. It can be seen as mockery of deeply held faith. It undermines the very communities who are the custodians of this tradition. So remember, these rituals involve actual spirit possession, divine judgment, and sacred spaces. The performers undergo rigorous preparation and enter genuine trance states. The headpieces are treated like idols and worshipped daily. So imagine if someone casually imitated your most sacred religious ceremony for Instagram likes or TikTok views. That's how the community is feeling about this. So look, we get it. The film is incredible, the performances are powerful, the rituals are visually stunning, the story of caste inclusivity is inspiring. It's natural to be moved and want to engage with what touched you. But there's a difference between appreciation and appropriation. So how do we show respect? Maybe learn about the actual tradition and its deep significance, share information that educates rather than entertains, highlight the social justice aspect, how this tradition breaks caste barriers, support and amplify the voices of the communities that practice these rituals, appreciate the artistry without mimicking the sacred elements, maybe understand that some things are meant to be witnessed and not imitated. Recognize that real people's faith is not your costume. Because the tradition of Bhuta Kola has survived for over 800 years through modernization and globalization. It remains an intimate part of life in Tulunadu because communities have protected and preserved it with deep reverence. Kantara and Kantara Chapter 1 are masterpieces precisely because they treat these traditions with respect they deserve. Rishabh Shetty and the entire team have created something that both entertains and educates, that showcases culture without exploiting it. What makes Bhuta Kola truly special isn't just the spectacular visuals or the powerful performances. In a society that is still grappling with caste discrimination, here's an 800-year-old tradition that says the empty vessel, the humble, the marginalized, is the one worthy of channeling the divine. So here's the tradition where a person from backward caste becomes deity worshipped by all, where their judgment is final and respected regardless of hierarchy, where every community has a valued role to play. That's not just a ritual, that's a vision of social justice wrapped up in spirituality. So let's follow the maker's lead, celebrate the film, share your love for it, learn from its message, but remember that what you're seeing represents real faith, real tradition, and real sacredness for millions of people. So if this video helped you understand the deeper context behind Kantara, please give it a thumbs up and share it with other fans. Let's spread awareness and respect, not just viral videos. So what did you think of Kantara Chapter 1? Were you aware of the caste-inclusive nature of Bhuta Kola? How do you think we can appreciate sacred traditions responsibly? Let me know in the comment section below. And remember, respect, reverence and learning never go out of style. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.